The clock is ticking down on what has been a contentious Supreme Court confirmation process for Brett Kavanaugh, and still few undecided senators have yet to vote. Technical difficulties shut down shows on St. Bonaventure's radio station for 2 weeks. Stay tuned for the buzz. Last week, a fire tore through a local Allegheny Subway restaurant. We investigated the cause of this destructive fire. A group of journalism students traveled to New York City to honor a recent graduate and to commemorate the 100th birthday of Russell Jandoli.
Good morning and happy Friday. I'm Leah McCluskey.
And I'm Emily Weber. Let's get right to the news this morning.
Breaking this morning, more than 300 protesters arrested outside the U.S. Senate building. All this in wake of the vote to determine whether Brett Kavanaugh sits on the Supreme Court. Omar Jimenez reports.
The FBI report did not corroborate any of the allegations.
It's the beginning of the end for the nomination and potential confirmation of Supreme Court nominee Brett Kavanaugh. He's been accused of sexual misconduct by multiple women, including Christine Blasey Ford, who alleges he pinned her down to a bed at a high school party in the early 80s and tried to forcibly remove her clothes. Kavanaugh denies those claims, and now Republicans say the latest FBI investigation did not corroborate any of the allegations.
I think I've carried out what I promised immediately, that we were going to have a fair and thorough process.
But Democrats arguing the investigation should have covered more, including interviews with both Ford and Kavanaugh.
The most notable part of this report is what's not in it.
Why shouldn't all of America see the facts?
The investigation began last week on the tail end of a chaotic few days in Washington.
I am here today not because I want to be. I am terrified.
My family and my name have been totally and permanently destroyed.
The next day, Arizona Senator Jeff Flake voted to confirm Kavanaugh on the Senate Judiciary Committee, but set conditions: an FBI investigation, limited in scope, and lasting only up to a week before moving toward any final vote.
There is only one copy of that final investigative report for over 100 senators. How were they able to read through it? Two Republicans have another potential wrinkle. Montana Senator Steve Daines is expected to be set out of town on Saturday and would miss any confirmation vote for Supreme Court nominee Brett Kavanaugh held that day. How is that factoring into this confirmation process? Senator Mitch McConnell says he's moving forward toward a planned procedural vote at 10:30 this morning.
The U.S. government and the Netherlands investigated 7 Russian intelligence agency members for a hacking scheme as part of an effort to distract from Russia's state-sponsored doping program. The Dutch government released evidence photos to the public from the investigation. The U.S. Department of Justice held a press conference on Thursday to discuss this investigation.
It's important that the why not get lost in this. This began with the disclosure of Russian state-sponsored doping program for its athletes. In other words, Russia cheated. They cheated, they got caught, they were banned from the Olympics, they were mad, and they retaliated. And in retaliating, they broke the law. So they are criminals.
The Russian intelligence members also targeted the Westinghouse Electric Corporation and a nuclear energy company in Pennsylvania. 2 out of 3 sexual assaults go unreported, according to the Rape, Abuse, and Incest National Network. St. Bonaventure's Thursday Forum addressed the sensitive topic of why people wait to report cases of sexual assault. Here's Nicholas Youngs with the story.
The definition of consent is that it's the knowing and mutual agreement between people to engage in an activity.
After the recent slew of scandals with Brett Kavanaugh's confirmation process and the sentencing of Bill Cosby, SBU used its Thursday forum to address possible reasons why someone would wait so long to report a sexual abuse. Nicole Gonzalez, Executive Director of Residential Living and Conduct, explained the sensitive topic. Why people would wait.
There's a fear of retaliation. There's a fear of not being believed.
And that Bonaventure will help the victims.
There are many reasons why somebody would not report a sexual assault. However, those who suffer this need to know that there are resources available to help them.
According to Gonzalez, her department receives anywhere from 4 to 7 reports of sexual assault in a year. Attendee believed, however, that the statistics were inconsistent and also believed that the sex allegations were unfairly biased towards men, a fact that Jennifer Pulver had a rebuttal for.
I think it is very hard for men to hear, oh, we're all bad. And that's not what women are saying.
However, a different attendee, Liam McGurl, was happy he came, as he believes it's a discussion worth having.
Responsibility doesn't lie on the victim or potential victim. The responsibility lies on others to, educate themselves out of harm.
Nicholas Youngs, SBU TV.
Gonzalez stated the responsibility falls on both men and women to make sure that consent is given on both sides to prevent tragedy.
For the past 2 weeks, limited radio shows aired on St. Bonaventure's radio station. Our Madeline Edwards has the story.
You may hear a difference in listening to 88.3 The Buzz radio station. They're having technical difficulties with their system. Some of the radio shows you listen to during the week have been canceled until further notice.
It was kind of a bummer to hear that the station was down.
So I do 2 radio shows a week, so I can't do my shows.
St. Bonaventure University radio shows canceled. Let's find out more about what the buzz is with 88.3 WSBU.
Shows are just canceled because we're doing a system update and we're currently allocating funds to do so.
Unfortunately, the station manager had little to say and did not go into the details of the issue, but Chandler Poswinski, Assistant Director of Production, had more to say.
Because we're going to be in preparation for when we get a new system, and so then once the new system comes, everything will go back into full swing. We're going to have a bunch of new stuff for our DJs to be able to use, so it's actually going to be kind of an exciting thing.
We emailed the director of the Center of Activities, Rob DeFazio, to find out where the Buzz gets its funds. He said, "We are working on finding the funding. We do not have it at this point." The Buzz continues to run off of a Spotify playlist. For SBU TV, I'm Madeline Edwards.
Station manager Stephen Wilt says he believes the radio shows should be up and running in a few weeks.
Allegheny now has one less Subway restaurant after a fire late last week. Nick Ventura went in and got the inside scoop on what's next for the restaurant.
We're here in Allegheny, New York, where at the local Subway, a fire broke out late Saturday afternoon and left everything toasted. We spoke with Matt Keller, the owner of the Subway in Allegheny, New York, that caught fire late Saturday afternoon, regarding what happened and what he thought about the incident.
The fire was actually caused by a mulch fire outside of the building on the Allegheny side of our property. Something started the mulch on fire, it caught the outside of the building on fire and then spread to the inside. I'm hoping to be open by next spring, if possible. That would be my plan.
I spoke with Love Nicholson about her thoughts on the fire.
The subway burning down really is bad because before it was a family-oriented place. Everyone goes there as Bona students because you get the discount. So it limits our options with it being away now.
Mm-hmm. I actually tried to get in touch with the neighboring houses that were affected by the fire, but was unable to get any word. I'm Nick Ventura with SBU TV.
While we may miss one of Allegheny's favorite family dining spots, we look forward to its return, which could possibly be next spring.
105 priests in the Buffalo Diocese have been charged of sexual misconduct in the last year. SBU TV's Nicholas Gallo gave us more details on how this position will aim to clean up the church.
The Diocese of Buffalo have hired Stephen Halter as the Director of Professional Responsibility.
The former FBI agent and St. Bonaventure graduate will be the head of investigating the clergy's sexual abuse and financial management cases as of this past Monday. Halter spent over 27 years managing investigations with the Buffalo FBI Evidence Response Team, helping the investigations involving the 9/11 terrorist attacks and crimes against children. The diocese created this position this past summer on August 26 in wake of the sex abuse scandals. From SBU TV, I'm Nicholas Gallo.
Halter is part of the 1984 class at St. Bonaventure. Despite local politicians calling in, Bishop Richard Malone will not resign from his position.
The discussion continues. Is it about time the City of Olean officials get a wage hike? The first since 1991? Sean Mickey has the story.
You don't get into these positions or go for these positions just for the money. And if you do, you're doing it for the wrong reason.
Mayor William Alio tells SBU TV he's pleased that the Olean Common Council tabled a motion to increase the mayor and council salary. He believes we first need to evaluate Olean's current form of government.
Why do we still have a 7-member council in 2018 as the city continues to shrink to a population of 14,000? And there was a lot of public asking, why do we have a full-time mayor at all?
Although some aren't sure if mayoral salary increase from $50,000 to $80,000 is fair, Batavia, New York, with a population of 15,000 has a city manager. His salary, $110,000 annually.
A city manager I think they would get sticker shock on the price of a city manager. You're looking at $125,000 or better for a city manager.
But what we could do is offer a city charter review. Now with that, if the people of Olean decide, yes, we would like to take a look at a new form of government, new salaries for those elected positions, whatever, they get that vote.
For a charter revision to take place, the Common Council would have to pass a law calling for a referendum.
I don't believe Olean right now is ready to start to talk about raising, the elected officials' wages. We have a lot of things on our plate. We have a lot of things going on here in Olean.
Sean Mickey, SBU TV.
We have submitted a Freedom of Information Act request to learn exactly how talks of salary increase began.
A massive earthquake and tsunami destroyed Palu, Indonesia these past 5 days. According to the Indonesian government, the death toll is over 1,500 people. That number is expected to grow as more bodies are being found in the rubble. CNN's Matt Rivers was in Palu with the story.
4 soldiers to a bag. They drag the person inside to a crude resting place. It feels coarse and undeserved. This is a hastily dug mass grave on a Palu hillside, a direct result of an earthquake and tsunami no one was prepared for. There's 194 people buried here, some of whom are still unidentified, that didn't deserve this. These are brothers, sisters, fathers, mothers, grandparents, friends, and they all just happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. Authorities had laid hundreds of bodies in the streets for days after the morgues ran out of room. We saw them for ourselves. Officials say the bodies could spread disease. The World Health Organization says that's not completely true, but the burials go on. The unidentified bodies did have their pictures taken, so hopefully they can be ID'd later. A short drive away, those lucky enough to be alive gather in a place where life is hard. A makeshift camp designed to help the newly homeless is widely unable to meet people's needs. It says there have been challenges in their aid mission, but that overall they're making the best of a bad situation. And yes, help is slowly increasing. Aid ships are en route and aid flights are picking up, but not fast enough. Looting, thirsty babies, hungry kids, filthy camps, and mass burials do not equal an effective disaster response.
And look, we should add here that the government denies this. They say they're doing the best that they can, that the situation is horrific, but people remain upset. That said, the same people who are upset with the government are also going to be their biggest cheerleaders if the government turns this around, accepts more international aid, and gets the kind of help to the people on the ground here that is so desperately needed.
The U.S., along with 16 other countries, have promised to send aid. A Red Cross ship full of supplies is expected to arrive today.
It's one of the most stressful times of the semester for college students, midterm week. Justin Myers finds out the impact of stress on students during this time.
Mental health awareness has become an important topic to discuss on college campuses. Since it is mentor week here on campus, I found ways students can deal with the pressure when dealing with such a stressful week.
It's been stressful.
Midterm week could cause this feeling for students across campus. I spoke with the director of the Wellness Center, Christopher Anderson, about what activities students can do to relieve stress.
Well, I try to encourage folks that even during stressful times to take time for themselves. And when I say that, that also includes time away from social media. Because when you're engaging in social media, you might be by yourself physically, but you're engaging other people, believe it or not.
I also asked Mr. Anderson what common signs you see in students with mental health issues.
Most common signs are changes in somebody's behavior patterns, their personality. Somebody who's normally very outgoing, suddenly you don't see them much, and they're staying in their room more. Having a hard time taking care of themselves, making it to class. Just look for changes in behaviors.
Mr. Anderson also states how the Center for Student Wellness saw a 27% increase in visits from last year to this year. I also spoke with freshman biology major Zeba Chowdhury on how social media can affect studying.
Definitely. I think that social media and just phones in general is a large distraction. Like if you're trying to study, I recommend that you just turn off your phone or just leave it in your room while you study, because I delete my apps off of my phone while I study, and then when I'm done, I re-download them.
The most important thing students can do during this week is get enough sleep, drink plenty of water, and eat well. For SBU TV, I'm Justin Myers.
If you're looking for other places to study, the Ministry Building and Swan Business Center are open 24 hours.
Welcome to your SBU TV Sports Recap. I'm Robert Barbieri. Let's get to it, starting with men's and women's soccer highlights.
Freshman Isaac Bowman scored his first career goal and first game-winning goal in the 28th minute. Senior Luke Icabellis made 7 saves to lead the St. Bonaventure men's soccer team to a 2-1 victory over UMass on the road. Saturday's win marks the first time the Bonnies have won their A10 opener since 2013. The first goal of the season for sophomore Nicola Bonzo and 7 saves from senior goalkeeper Luke Icabellis were enough for the Bonnies to defeat the Dayton Flyers in a shutout 1-0 Wednesday night. Bonnies moved to 5-3-1 on the season and 2-0 in A10 play for the first time since 1997.
Junior forward Sidney Sears' goal wouldn't be enough as the George Washington Colonials would come back and defeat the St. Bonaventure Women's Soccer Club 2-1. Sears' goal in the 15th minute mark would give Bonnas an early lead. Second half would be a turn of events as the Colonials' senior midfielder forward Sophia Pavon would score 2 late goals to complete the comeback. The LaSalle Lady Explorers would outplay and outshoot St. Bonaventure Women's Soccer in a 3-0 blowout. 2 first-half goals from sophomore midfielder Molly O'Brien and freshman forward Madison Bauer would set the tone for the rest of the game. The Bonnies will return home Sunday to face off against Fordham, who is undefeated in conference play.
It started with a few words from her father, which led to a new beginning for freshman Qatar native Tiziana Barnwell. Nicholas Gallo sat down with her to talk about her journey to St. Bonaventure.
I wasn't really looking at New York because I thought, oh wow, it's really cold. And then one day my dad said to me, like, you know, it might be good for a change, like desert to cold, like you're only going to be there 4 years. You might like it.
Barnwell is not used to the Northeast sights.
Sometimes I'd see camels outside, and it would be fine. Here I see deer. So it's a little bit different, and geese and skunk, ew.
Barnwell, since the age of 15 years old, has been on the Qatar national team. She spoke to us about how that experience has impacted her as a soccer player.
We played in a golf tournament, played different other countries in the Middle East, the UAE and Jordan. And I actually scored a goal versus Jordan, so that was pretty cool. And it was when I was like 15, so I was a little bit younger, so I just thought it was the greatest thing ever.
She expressed how competitive the A10 is compared to her national team.
This level of play within the A10 conference is even above the level of play that the national teams were playing at in the Middle East.
From SBU TV Sports, I'm Nicholas Gallo.
As the St. Bonaventure golf team travels home from the capital region, they'll be bringing a bit of extra hardware. The Murray Cup trophy remains in the possession of the Bonnies after they captured a victory over Siena in match play on Tuesday.
That's all from sports. Back to you, Emily and Leah.
A recent Bonaventure graduate was honored this week at the Hellinger Awards in New York City. Isaiah Blakely talked to attendees about what this award ceremony means.
Dozens of journalism students were invited to attend an award ceremony earlier this week.
Bonnie's past and present came together Tuesday afternoon in New York City for the 50th annual Mark Hellinger Awards.
Journalism Dean Aaron Chimble told me how this ceremony is put together.
They have to prepare all of the things that you would do if it was on campus, plus do it in a location several hours away.
Chimble also explained what makes this ceremony so important.
About students, right? And it's about students who have excelled in the Jandoli School. So that's really important.
The star of the show is a former student, Ethan Kibbe. Kibbe's a 2018 graduate, and he told me what the award meant to him.
A great deal to me. Not because it really says that I've done anything particularly special, but it's saying that I'm surrounded by incredible people. And so to have a chance here, even just for a few moments, to recognize all of them and everything that they've done for me made the entire trip, made my 4 years at Bonaventure worth it.
The man who spoke before Kibbe, keynote speaker Byron Pitts, told me why he attended the event without direct Bonaventure ties.
I think it's important whenever you have the opportunity to give back. Certainly, I went to a small liberal arts school, so I can relate to the students at St. Bonaventure, so it's my honor.
A student Pitts related to was sophomore Jeff Uvino.
For SBU TV. Because no man is a failure who has friends.
I'm Isaiah Blakely.
Russell Jandoli founded the St. Bonaventure journalism program in 1947. Michael Spong created a video to celebrate Jandoli's work on what would have been Jandoli's 100th birthday.
Next to my dad and an uncle, he was the most influential man in my life.
It was in the summer of 1948 at a summer graduation when Father Thomas Plasmy got up. My wife were sitting in the stands and not paying much attention, and Father Thomas pronounced that there will be a journalism department in the next academic year, and Professor Jandoli will be its head. And that was the first we knew about it.
When I pursued my career, it was because of Dr. Jandoli. He had so many contacts, he could make a phone call and you could get a job.
I basically owe my career to Russ Jandoli.
He would mark up your paper a lot, but it wouldn't just be, this is bad, it would be, this is good. And suddenly you could look at your paper and go, I can build on this.
He really embodied what I thought I wanted to do professionally. He made a big impression for being such an unassuming gentleman.
He was unassuming, he was quiet, but he was forceful. And when he corrected one of your assignments, you knew that he had paid attention to it, because there was more red ink on that paper than there was black ink from your typewriter.
Another element we had, and perhaps the most important, was that we wanted students to learn how to write. From wherever they were, we wanted to teach them writing. And we figured that that would take 4 years.
He taught me to omit needless words. He taught me to tighten my writing and get rid of adverbs and do the things that made a story compelling and a quick, informative read.
I'd like to pattern my whole career after Dr. Jandoli's teaching, to try and be accurate, to be fair, to be responsible, to be caring about other people that you work with, including people who work under you.
An old-fashioned gentleman, if you will. We never got anything other than respect from him in a classroom.
He was very studious, he was a bookworm, he was an intellectual, very religious.
He was probably about 5'10", 5'11", maybe in height, maybe not that tall. He dressed impeccably. He always wore what looked like Brooks Brothers 3-button suits. That's from the time of the Ivy League look. And he had button-down shirts and beautiful ties, silk ties, and in Cordovan loafers or Cordovan brogues, whatever.
He was a nerd. If you could look at a nerd, he was always walking around. He had books in his hand, and he had an office that was so cluttered it was unbelievable.
And he always looked like he just, should be doing a GQ ad sort of. And then he would go up to the front of the classroom and he would lean against the green board, the chalk tray, and by the time he left class, every day, never failed, he walked out with a big yellow streak on the back of his coat.
I'm reminded of a man who taught me at Columbia, Walter Pitkin. Walter once wrote a book called Life Begins at 40. And I suppose as time went on, I enjoyed teaching more and more.
I tried to follow in his footsteps. I tried to keep the program on the level that he established it, with the principles for ethics and morals and good journalism that he established in 1949.
For a long while, he was a one-man band. If we needed resources, he went out and talked to somebody that he knew to see if we could get the resources. If we needed connections, he went out. The Hellinger came about in part because of his connections.
The tools that he gave me, that I've in turn been able to impart and share with students here, I think equip the students who come through our doors today to be great communicators and deliver factual, accurate, authentic messaging.
The best job I ever had was working here in the Jandoli School, and the Jandoli is a key part of that statement.
He was the kind of person that you had to like. There was no way you could not like him because of the way he carried himself and the way he reacted with you. He was like a friend, a mentor, a teacher, a disciplinarian. His wife used to tell me, he loved his students more than he loved me. Well, and I used to tell her, I said, Mrs. Jandoli, he had no children. We were his children.
Thanks for joining us this morning. We are your social media managers, so remember to follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook for your news during the week.
To the students, have a safe and fun midterm break. We'll see you back here live Friday the 19th for our next newscast.